Hello guys, today I'm back with Numbers chapter 19 today. Today we're going to learn about the holy water. Yeah, if you say it long, it's the special water that makes people clean. So if we say it short, it's holy water. That's all. So we're going to talk about a red cow, a red calf. If I'm right, it's a red calf. Yeah, I might be right, or okay. So we're going to talk about the red calf, to part 13, and about and also the clean water, the holy water. Yeah, so we're going to learn about that, so let's start. And today, chapter 19, the special water that makes people clean. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron. He said, "Here is what the law I have commanded requires. Tell the Israelites to bring you a young red cow. Yeah. It must not have any flaws at all. It must never have pulled a load." You know, before Henry Ford made a car, there was Henry Cow. So cows like pull a load, so it must never pull the load and no fuss. That's the requirement. Give it to Eleazar the priest. It must be taken outside the camp and killed in front of him. Then Eleazar the priest must put some of its blood on his finger. He must sprinkle the blood toward the front of the tent of meeting. He must do it 7 times. So you kill it in front of Eleazar outside the camp, and then Eleazar dips his finger and he sprinkles it 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, he must do it 7 times. While he watches, the young cow must be burnt. Its hide, meat, blood, and guts must be burnt. The priest must get some cedarwood branches of the hyssop plant and bright red wool. He must throw them on the young cow as it burns. After that, the priest must wash his clothes. He must also take a bath. Then he can come into the camp, but he will be unclean until evening. The man who burns the young cow must wash his clothes. He must also take a bath. He too will be unclean until evening. A man who is clean will gather up the ashes of a young cow. He must put them in a place that is clean. The place must be outside the camp. The ashes must be kept by the community of Israel. They will be added to the special water. The water will be used to make people pure from their sin. The man who gathers up the ashes of the young cow must wash his clothes. He too will be unclean until evening. This law is for the Israelites. It is also for the outsiders living among them. The law will last for all time to come. Anyone who touches a dead person's body will be unclean for 7 days. They must take themselves pure and clean with the special water. They must do it on the 3rd day. They must also do it on the 7th day. Then they will be clean. But suppose they do not make themselves pure and clean on the 3rd and 7th days, then they will not be clean. Anyone who touches a dead person's body and does not make themselves pure and clean makes my holy tent unclean. My holy tent means God's holy tent, because God's home is the holy tent, the most holy room. That's the God's room. They must be separated from Israel. The special water has not been sprinkled on them, so they are unclean, and they remain unclean. Here's the law that applies when a person dies in a tent. Anyone who enters the tent will be unclean for 7 days. Anyone in the tent will also be unclean for 7 days, and anything in it that is open and has no lid will be unclean. Suppose someone is out in the country, and suppose they touch someone who has been killed by a sword, or they touch someone who has died in a natural death, or they touch a human bone or a grave, then anyone who touches any of those things will be unclean for 7 days. Here's what I want you to do for someone who is unclean. Put some ashes from the burned young cow into a jar. Pour fresh water on the ashes. Then the man who is clean must dip branches of a hyssop plant in the water. He must sprinkle the tent with it. Everything that belongs to the tent must be sprinkled with it. The people in the tent must also be sprinkled. Anyone who has touched a human bone or a grave must be sprinkled. So must anyone who has touched someone who has been killed, and so must anyone who has touched someone who has died a natural death. The man who is clean must sprinkle those who are unclean. That must be done on the 3rd and 7th days. On the 7th day, those who are unclean must be made pure and clean. Those being made clean must wash their clothes. They must take a bath. Then that evening they will be clean. But what if those who are unclean do not make themselves pure and clean? Then they must be separated from the community. They have made my holy tent unclean. The special water has not been sprinkled on them. They are unclean. This law will apply to all those people for all time to come. The man who sprinkles the special water must also wash his clothes. Anyone who touches the water will be unclean until evening. Anything that an unclean person touches becomes unclean, and anyone who touches it becomes unclean until evening. Now guys, today we read all the book today, so today's summary is to part 13. We learned about the red young cow, and from 14 to 22 we learned about how to be clean and the holy water. We need to make the spot in making ourselves clean, because we learned about that today. So yeah guys, today's summary is that. So I guess it's pretty fine. It was pretty normal. Today we learned about Numbers chapter 19 today. Today we learned about the red young cow and how to make ourselves clean today. Thank you for making us clean in this way, and thank you for being our God, and we'll trust you, and also, and God will protect us too, and thank you always. Amen. Have a nice day. Today is the end of the lesson today, so I need to say goodbye. So, time to say goodbye. So, I hope I see you next time, and see ya.